Right, I want you to think of a hot air balloon, lying on the ground just before it takes off. Now, to be able to get that air balloon even just 1 millimeter off the ground, it's going to take an enormous amount of energy. You'll see them spending ages burning loads and loads of gas just to blow tons and tons of hot air into the balloon, because it just takes a ridiculous amount of energy just to get that thing even just 1 inch off the ground, right? But then what is really interesting to me is that once it has, used all of that energy to get up in the air and it's floating in the sky, what do you notice? They are no longer burning all of that gas to try and blow tons of hot air into it to keep it up. Nope, all of the hard work has already been done. And now all it needs to keep it going is just a teeny tiny little top up, every so often. Tss, tss. That's it, right? It's just a little bit of energy to keep it going, to keep it moving along in the sky, because all of the hard work had been done before. All of that groundwork gave it enough energy to keep it going in the sky. I think this analogy is perfect for describing what it takes to get any entrepreneurial endeavor or just any startup in business, especially your trading business, to get it off the ground, to get it up and running. It takes a ridiculous amount of focused energy on just that one thing and that thing alone. Then once the hard work has been done and it's in the air, you can't just ignore it and completely leave it alone. You do need to keep attending to it and giving it a top up of hot air, every so often, but it doesn't require anywhere near as much energy for you to put into it anymore. But the key thing here is that hot air balloon had zero chance, absolutely zero chance of getting off the ground if they had not spent all of that focused energy filling it up with hot air. You need to treat your trading business the exact same way. Now, as humans, we do tend to kind of overcomplicate everything. So I try to approach my trading and setting goals kind of the same way that I try to approach the majority of endeavors in my life, which is to boil it down to sort of its most simplest and effective parts and then discard the rest. And I've tried so many different ways, methods and strategies of setting goals over the years. And it's no surprise really that what I've found is that the most simple and minimal is generally always the most effective, because it has the highest form of adherence. Even Warren Buffett says that when you're setting out and writing all of your goals, you should pick your top 20 priorities, put them in order of importance, and then just cross out the bottom 15 and just focus on the top 5. Because those top 5 are really all that matters and that are important to you. And if you just focus on them, that's going to give you your highest probability of actually achieving them. The rest is just a distraction. Now, don't get me wrong, I do truly believe that mastering your life is to strive to find and maintain balance across the 7 areas of life. But when you start to set hundreds and hundreds of goals, I find you just end up spreading yourself way too thin. So focus on what you value the most first, and then bring those other areas up later on. For instance, wealth without health is obviously useless, yes, but in my opinion, if you can boost your wealth first, you can then afford the private healthcare, the personal trainers and the chefs and whatever you need. So when you have endless amounts of goals and tasks to try and hit every day, you end up just with a massive complicated spreadsheet or journal, and you just end up spending all of your time trying to fill it out and keep track of it, rather than actually working at the task at hand, and it can just become really boring and tedious. But we want effectiveness and efficiency. So how do we do that? Well, we focus on 3 big goals a year. That's it. Just 3 big goals that you want to achieve by the end of the year. That's it, nothing else. Then you take those 3 annual goals and you split them up into quarterly sprints. So just like the roadmap phases that we looked at in the previous lesson, so that you have your 3 big goals to then achieve each quarter, and those bring you one step closer then to your big 3 annual goals, right? So then you can break down those quarters into months. So each month has 3 goals, and those months into weeks, each week having 3 goals, and then those weeks into days. And yep, you guessed it, each day will have 3 high priority actions that you need to execute and tick off your list every single day. So set your mind in the morning and keep it set until you go to bed. And that way you give yourself the highest possible chance of actually achieving those 3 big annual goals. So in a nutshell, this is all you do. First, you figure out what you want. So decide what you want to achieve. Then you follow a trajectory where what you want is actually a possible outcome. So that's essentially the 3-goal process that we just described, breaking your 3 annual goals all the way down to 3 daily tasks for the entire year. Then you need to build a system to incrementally improve your ability to actually follow that trajectory. And you do that by simply doing more of what works and less of what doesn't. So you need to be reviewing that on a daily basis to know what's working and what isn't. Now, don't stop doing that until it stops working. So just trust yourself. Enjoy the outcomes that arise as a byproduct of your work by following the process. So rinse and repeat that process. Now, placing deadlines on your goals, it's a bit of a tricky subject for me personally, because for some people, right, setting deadlines will work fantastically well and the pressure will be a great motivator. But for others, it could be a bit more of a disaster, because when you set deadlines and you have expectations on, say, when you should be a millionaire, or when you should be trading X amount of capital, when you should be a funded trader, you can just end up robbing yourself of your own success. So I've laid out this 12-month roadmap, right, to achieve funding or a similar goal, whatever it is you are striving to achieve, which is great. I genuinely think it's a very, very effective way to approach things, but it can put a massive amount of pressure and just expectation on yourself, right, to be funded or to achieve whatever your main goal is before those 12 months are up. Otherwise you might view yourself, just as a failure. So those expectations of your journey, they really can be the difference between you actually becoming successful or not, because it can force you to rush things when you're just simply not ready yet. And you just end up slowing your overall progression with just a lot of unnecessary stress thrown into the mix too, because you can start skipping steps in the process that you need to follow first. Now, everyone within Photon is obviously a unique individual with a unique upbringing, with a unique set of circumstances and experiences that has brought them here today. Some of you will have never traded before. Some of you might have a little bit of experience, maybe trading other strategies, and some of you may be really experienced, but you're just looking for that final bit of refinement and potentially tweaking to your approach. So this whole 12-month roadmap thing, just see it as a rough guideline and structure for you to then take that, mold it into your own, and make it work for you. So some of you could, literally be ready to get funded within a month. Some of you might not be ready for a few years, but either way, if you're trying to force things when you just haven't done the necessary work, the necessary groundwork beforehand, right? Getting all of that hot air into the balloon, it's only just going to lead to failed expectations and disappointment. So what is a solution to this potential problem? Well, again, just like anything that is truly effective in life, it is a very subtle but important difference on how you set your goals. And it's all about focusing on the process instead of focusing on the outcome. So how you do that is you set process-based goals rather than outcome-based goals. So an outcome goal would be to lose weight, and a process goal is to get to the gym 3 times a week, right? So instead of just saying, well, in X amount of months' time, I'm going to be a funded trader with X amount of trading capital, instead what you do is just write down a list of all the practical steps that you need to take, right? Those process-based goals. So that's why in the roadmap, the focus is on watching the content, doing the practical, exercises and tasks, spending months testing and refining, building your confidence before you even think about trading live, let alone trying to apply for a funded account. Because if you follow that path, that's laid out in that roadmap, and if you successfully complete all of those processes, then it's those processes is what will, not guarantee, but it will give you the greatest probability of achieving your desired outcome as a byproduct, and as a side effect of you ticking off all of those process-based goals. So even if you don't achieve that outcome goal on, whatever timeline you may have set, you are going to be nearer to it than you have ever been. And that, in my opinion, is a great success. Now, visualizing the end result, it is definitely not the fastest method, and certainly not the one with the highest chance of working. That's because it's extremely difficult to match the big distance in vibration that exists between you and your desired end result. So what will really accelerate the process and really get things moving along is imagining the process of moving towards the desired result. Because when there is a smaller vibrational gap between you and your current objective, it's obviously naturally accomplished much easier. With visualization, we give direction to our preferred scenario, and it allows us to change the line of life. So visualize the process and not that end result, not the outcome. So, if you meditate and you're already practicing, say, visualization, this will hopefully make quite a lot of sense to you. But if you don't, or you're just not into that, hippie woo-woo shit or whatever, don't worry, I get it. But all this essentially means is that when you wake up each day, right, and you're rolling out of bed and you're thinking, right, come on, man, I need to get funded, I need to make this happen, I need to be profitable, I need to quit my job. Whatever that desired end outcome is for you, instead of just focusing on that each day, instead channel all of your focus onto the next process-based goal that you need to achieve that will move you along to the next step in that pipeline of process-based goals that you need to work your way through to eventually arrive at the big end outcome-based goal, right? So you want to be waking up and thinking, right, today I'm currently in the testing phase in month 4 and I'm building case studies for my training plan, and I know I need 50 case studies before I move on to forward testing, so today I'm going to collect at least 5 case studies. And then that's what your mind is then focused on, and essentially visualizing subconsciously for the day ahead, and then you're achieving those process-based goals, those practical tasks, and that is what is getting you closer to your goal, your desired end outcome goal, quicker than anything else. So if you ever find yourself struggling on some days to take action and you're suffering from procrastination, then you must realize that procrastination is a privilege. Consider that many do not have the option to procrastinate. You're not worried about procrastination when your life is in danger, you just act. So if you don't want to be doing it, you need a better reason not to. What would less procrastination mean for the future you, your family, or causes you care about? Those questions usually work for me. But the trick is to understand the long-term consequence of inaction. So make sure you sort out your diet, get a healthy and consistent sleeping routine, and make sure you have planned out and structured your day in advance. If you want to fix it, measure it. Track your macros in your diet, track your sleep, make sure you are doing what you need to do so that you can operate at peak performance. You need to give yourself your best possible chance. Because avoiding discomfort, it's just not going to get you closer to your goals. But what I will say is, if you do have a few bad days or, even a few weeks and life just gets in the way, look, it's okay. You are a human, you're not a robot. But do not beat yourself up because there are zero benefits from doing that. Do not discourage yourself with what you have not done. Instead, encourage yourself with what you are going to do. So get planning, write down your goals, refocus, get realigned, and just start smashing it out again. Right, I want to talk very briefly about the importance of social influence on your success or lack of success. And one thing that is quite controversial, but something that I'm sure you will face eventually, is the realization that many people in your inner circle, they actually have a hidden agenda for you to stay put, to stay where you are, for you not to do much, and for you not to succeed. Definitely not to succeed beyond the level of their success. Many of us, we start trading, we start business, we start a different life, we start personal development, we go and do these new things, and we kind of have this fantasy expectation that our inner circle, our close friends, our brothers and sisters, our mums and dads, we think that they are going to support that. But then we get hit with a challenge from them, and they become, kind of like haters. They become a bit negative, right? And we think, what the fuck's going on here, you motherfucker? You're meant to be supportive, right? And it can be really confusing and just frustrating, and you can go off the rails because you're wondering, what the fuck's going on with this relationship? So it's important to be really careful with who you share your goals with. So many traders quit because they literally just couldn't handle the social rejection. So one thing you want to ask yourself is, if you do go and if you do succeed to a really high degree and you rise to success, you soar towards success, what do you think that means for them? What do you think that means for a sibling who maybe grew up in the same house, with the same environment, exposed to the same opportunities as you, the same potential, the same genes, but you go and get successful and they don't? How do you think that goes and makes them feel? The same for your close friends, right? You grew up with the close friends, you've had the same group of mates since you were a kid, you went to the same school, you've had the same education, you did the same shit, you hang around the same people, you then succeed and they don't. That is very, very uncomfortable, right? It's not pleasant. So they have a couple of options, right? They can either start learning, start growing, start changing, start building. They can build buildings as tall as yours, or they can become fearful that your building is going to outshine theirs. It's going to cast a shadow onto their peasant building, and they'll go and kick the feet from under you, so you can't go and build it. Why? Well, it's a lot easier to trip someone up and make sure that they don't build a building than it is to go and get your shit together and build your own. So stop asking blind people to proofread your vision. Because the interesting thing is, if putting a voice to your highest dreams can make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, how do you think it's going to make people around you feel? They're probably going to feel uncomfortable too, and probably often a lot more so than you. Because go and tell your 5 closest friends about your biggest ambition and watch how many of them squirm awkwardly. Why? Because showing them your want, your desire, also makes them acutely aware of their want and their lack. This is why when you are writing down your goals and you're creating a vision for your future, I think it's really important to be careful who you share and who you choose to share that vision with. And trust me, I get it. I did this. It is completely natural to want to share your enthusiasm with the people in your life, especially those you are closest to you. But it's also useful to remember that people often tend to respond by just raining on your parade. Now, when they do this, it's almost usually not, out of malice or, their active sort of conscious desire to try and blunt and shoot down your excitement. More often than not, it's just simply a form of self-defense from them. So if you intend on, becoming a financial master, then don't concern yourself with the problems and the opinions of financial neophytes. It is not your journey. Because they would rather not hear about the vision that you have because it reminds them of the one that they have lost. I've been there before, especially when I first started my trading journey. I was so excited by it all. I was absolutely buzzing. I was diving headfirst into the world of personal development. I was learning so much new stuff that, I just wanted to obviously naturally share with the people around me. I started working on the weekends, on my own business, on my own development. People they just didn't really get it. They didn't understand it, Kind of just thought I was wasting my time. So, I'm not one for kind of regrets in life, but I guess if I could go back and maybe do things slightly differently, I probably would have kept, more of my goals and my vision to myself, or, just at least a few close friends who maybe kind of shared the same values, right? And just looked for other like-minded individuals elsewhere to share them with. And that's what the Photon community is for, right? You guys are all in this together. You're all on similar journeys with similar goals and similar ambitions for your lives. So this is the place to share that with others if you feel you want to. But the one thing that I want you to realize is that people will quit on you all of the time along your journey. You can't expect them to share or understand your vision. They're not supposed to, because it is unique to you. And it's not fair on them for you to expect that of them either. So try not to do that. So make sure that you get up every single day and you do not quit on yourself, because you don't need anyone but yourself to succeed. Because when you do it for yourself, there is no timeline. But when you're doing it for others' approval, that timeline is always too close and right up in your face, right? So patience, that comes from the peace within yourself. Because when you play the game for yourself, then you enjoy the game itself. But when you're playing it just to prove to others that you're successful, or just to stick it to them to prove them wrong, then you become wildly impatient, and that pretty much always leads to poor decision making. So make sure you're playing for you and not for them. Now, typically, humans really tend to overestimate what they can achieve in just a few months, but they tend to also massively underestimate what they can achieve in just a few years. Now, if you were studying, let's say, to be a brain surgeon, you wouldn't watch a video course on brain surgery, smash through it all on 2x speed, within just a few weeks, and then you wouldn't just walk into a hospital, go into the operating room, and then perform brain surgery on someone, would you? You wouldn't finish reading a book on piloting 101 and then expect to be able to fly a jumbo jet plane the next day, would you? Of course you wouldn't, right? That would be fucking insane, right? Only nutters would really believe that they could do that successfully without killing someone. But why do so many people think that they can do the same thing with trading? You wouldn't believe the amount of naive people who genuinely think that they can just blast through a course in a few days and then start consistently making money on a 6 or 7 figure account week in, week out. Yes, it is possible to do that. And no, I am not here to install any limiting beliefs on you whatsoever. Let me get that straight. But what I am here to do is to help you dissolve and crush any trading fantasies that you may have from the very start. Why? Because that allows you to think, plan, and act with a more poised and balanced frame of mind. A poised mind, not a poisoned mind of emotions. So hopefully now you have more balanced and realistic and empowering beliefs about your trading, and you know that the journey will be a tough one, but one that is going to be the single most rewarding challenge that you have probably ever embarked on. So, let me ask you this. How badly do you want it? How badly do you want to become consistently profitable? Because one of my favorite quotes is, if you want to take the island, then burn your boats. In 1519, a guy called Hernan Cortez, he led an army of 600 soldiers to Mexico with just one goal and one goal alone: to conquer the Aztec Empire. Many had tried before, yet none has succeeded. So upon arriving in Mexico, Cortez ordered his men to burn all of their boats. This meant there was no way for them to retreat. So what does that mean? It literally meant it was either success or death. A or B, no in between. Within 2 years, Cortez succeeded in his conquest of the Aztec Empire. So if you have big dreams that you want to achieve, burn your boats. You have to make sure that success is your only option. You need to go all in, no plan B. Are you fully prepared to go all in? That small investment and sacrifice of your time and money in yourself now can change the course of your life forever. But the question is, how bad do you want to succeed? Because there are only 2 types of traders with the potential to succeed. The first type are those who are consistently profitable and they just seek a little bit of fine-tuning. And the second type are those traders who are so absolutely desperate in their desire for consistency because they have yet to achieve it. But anyone in between kind of those 2 extremes, they don't have a chance. Where the determination lies, the way can be found.